Billionaire insulted a simple girl sleeping in row 12. The pilots. Reaction was unbelievable. The billionaire's voice cut through the quiet cabin, his words sharp and cruel as he mocked the young girl dozing in row 12. "Look at her," he sneered, "asleep like she owns the place. People like her shouldn't even be allowed in business class." Heads turned and whispers rippled through the aisle. The girl stirred faintly, unaware of the humiliation directed at her. Passengers looked uneasy, some embarrassed for her, but no one spoke up. The arrogance of the billionaire filled the air with discomfort. Just then, the intercom clicked on, summoning everyone's attention. The captain's voice was calm, but his tone carried weight. What happened next would silence the entire aircraft. The girl slowly opened her eyes, blinking in confusion at the stares surrounding her. She had no idea why strangers were suddenly watching her every move. The billionaire leaned forward with a smirk, shaking his head. "Typical," he said loudly, "sleeping while others are working hard. No discipline, no class." His words stung, even though she had done nothing wrong. The air hostess shifted uneasily, her eyes darting between the girl and the man. Tension thickened in the cabin, as if something bigger was about to unfold. The pilot's voice returned over the speakers, stronger this time, asking for silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain announced, "I need to ask something important. Is there a pilot among the passengers?" Gasps filled the cabin. Everyone sat up straight, suddenly alert. The billionaire chuckled loudly, clapping sarcastically. Perfect timing. Maybe the sleeping girl in row 12 thinks she can fly the plane too. His laughter was cruel, echoing through the quiet. The girl lowered her gaze, cheeks burning with shame. But the pilot's words were not meant as a joke. He sounded deadly serious. Something urgent was happening in the cockpit. Passengers exchanged anxious glances, whispering in panic. Some tightened their seatbelts, others prayed silently. The billionaire reclined in his seat smugly, pretending he wasn't worried. "Relax," he scoffed. "The crew will handle it. That girl can keep dreaming while the real people take care of things." But at that moment, the air hostess walked quickly down the aisle, her expression grave. She stopped at row 12, right where the billionaire had mocked. The passengers held their breath, waiting to see what she would do. Her next words made jaws drop. "Ma'am," the hostess said softly to the girl, "the captain would like to see you in the cockpit." The girl froze, her heart racing. The billionaire burst into laughter again, almost falling out of his seat. "Her? Don't be ridiculous. She probably doesn't even know how to open the cockpit door." His arrogance was louder than ever, but the hostess ignored him and offered the girl her hand. The entire cabin watched as the simple young woman rose, her steps hesitant but steady. Nobody could have guessed the truth about her. The passengers leaned forward in shock, murmuring questions. Why her? Who was she really? The billionaire shook his head, muttering insults under his breath. "This is absurd. A simple girl like her doesn't belong in the cockpit." But the hostess remained calm, guiding the girl down the aisle with dignity. The cabin fell into silence, curiosity overpowering fear. Every eye followed her until she disappeared behind the cockpit door. The billionaire's smirk faltered as uncertainty crept into his expression. Something wasn't adding up. Inside the cockpit, the captain greeted the young woman with a firm nod. "I never thought I'd need you this soon," he said quietly. Her eyes widened, but she quickly regained composure. She slid into the co-pilot's seat with practiced ease, her hands moving confidently over the controls. "What's the situation?" she asked, her voice calm and professional. The captain explained the sudden medical emergency of his co-pilot. Without hesitation, she began assisting him. For the first time, her true identity emerged. She was not just a passenger, as she was a trained pilot. Back in the cabin, rumors spread like wildfire. "She's a pilot," one passenger whispered. "Impossible," another argued, shaking his head. The billionaire leaned forward, trying to overhear every word. His smug grin had vanished, replaced by a nervous frown. The air hostess quietly confirmed to a few nearby passengers, "She's trained. We're safe." Relief washed over some faces, while others still struggled to believe it. The billionaire sat frozen, his pride collapsing with every passing second. The girl he had mocked was the very person saving them. Minutes later, the captain's voice returned on the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, Thanks to the assistance of one of our passengers, we are regaining full control of the aircraft." Applause erupted, echoing through the cabin like thunder. Passengers smiled with tears in their eyes, clapping with gratitude. The billionaire's hands remained still, his face pale with shame. He looked around, realizing everyone had witnessed his arrogance. The girl in row 12 was no longer just a simple sleeper. She was their lifeline in the sky. The flight attendants couldn't hide their admiration. They whispered about her composure, her skill, and her courage under pressure. The passengers who had been silent earlier now cheered for her. The billionaire tried to sink into his seat, wishing he could disappear. His earlier laughter now felt like poison in his throat. The simple girl he mocked had risen higher, quite literally, than he ever could. And no amount of money could erase his humiliation. The air hostess shot him a sharp glance, as if reminding him of his cruelty. When the girl finally stepped back into the cabin, the passengers erupted in cheers once again. She looked humble, her face slightly flushed from the attention. The air hostess clasped her hands and said, "You saved us." "Thank you." The billionaire stared at her, unable to meet her eyes. His arrogance had been shattered by her quiet strength. She walked past him without a word, her silence louder than any insult. He shifted uncomfortably, realizing he had mocked the very person who had saved his life. The billionaire tried to recover his dignity, forcing a weak smile. "Well," he muttered, "good for her." But the passengers weren't fooled. They glared at him, disgusted by his earlier behavior. A few whispered openly, "Shame on him." His wealth meant nothing in that moment. The girl, humble and simple in appearance, had earned more respect than he could buy in a lifetime. He looked down at his expensive watch, but the ticking only reminded him of his mistake. Time couldn't erase what everyone had seen. As the plane began its safe descent, the passengers felt a new sense of unity. They had witnessed courage, humility, and truth overpower arrogance. The girl returned to her seat in row 12, where she had first been mocked. She leaned back, closing her eyes once more. This time, no one dared whisper against her. Instead, they admired her strength in silence. Even the air hostess lingered nearby, watching her with quiet respect. The billionaire sat rigid, trapped in his shame. The landing was smooth, thanks to the combined efforts of the captain and the girl. When the wheels touched the ground, applause filled the cabin once more. Tears of relief rolled down some cheeks, while others bowed their heads in gratitude. The girl remained modest, never boasting about what she had done. She gathered her small bag quietly, ready to leave unnoticed. But the billionaire knew he could never forget the lesson she had taught him. His pride had been crushed by truth at 30,000 feet. As passengers disembarked, many paused to thank her personally. Some shook her hand, others simply smiled with deep respect. The billionaire, however, avoided her gaze, ashamed of the man he had been. For once, his fortune, his power, and his arrogance meant nothing. A simple girl had proven greater than him in every way. The story of row 12 would live in the hearts of everyone on that flight. And the pilot's trust in her had turned an ordinary passenger into an extraordinary hero.